Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
I'm Count Jackula, baby.
And he's Count Jackula, baby. And today we're going to talk about Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, the latest film by director Tim Burton, and sequel 36 years in the making? I can't believe it's been that long, but yes, this is the sequel to 1988's Beetlejuice. And so, obviously, going into this movie, we went in with a lot of expectations. I mean, how could you not, given...
Well, you know, they say good things are worth the wait.
Good things are worth the wait, yes. I am happy to report that this movie not only met my expectations, it pretty much exceeded them on just about every level. My only real criticism of this movie is that there's so much going on, so much insanity, that some things feel like they probably could have used a little bit more time to cook, but only some things.
Yeah, only some things. This is the most things that have been going on in a Tim Burton movie ever.
Yeah, there are so many plot threads happening simultaneously in this movie that I can't think of a good way to distill this movie down to like a simple one-sentence premise. The best way I can describe what this movie's about, not getting into like what the experience is, but what it's about, is essentially this movie is Lydia's midlife crisis.
Yeah.
She has to confront her relationship with just about everyone around her, from her dead father, who's dead for very obvious reasons if you know anything about the guy who played the father in the first movie.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Weirdly enough, he's still a character in the movie.
Yeah, he's still a character in the movie, but they did everything in their power to make sure that that actor never has to show up on screen. They do some cool things with it that we'll talk about in the spoiler section. But she has to confront that relationship now that he's dead. She has to confront the relationship with her stepmom that she always hated, but now is kind of in the same position because her daughter's now treating her the way she treated her stepmom.
Yes. Yeah.
She has to confront the relationship with her daughter, who hates her as much as she hated her parents in the first movie. She has to confront the relationship with her potentially future husband, who is also a controlling asshole. She also has to confront the relationship with the one, the only Beetlejuice, the man who has given her PTSD for the last 36 years of her life. And, you know, she's kind of tired of that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that have to happen in this movie, and that's just the stuff involving Lydia. There's a whole subplot involving Beetlejuice and his estranged ex-wife. There's an entirely different subplot involving her daughter and this boy she meets in town that may or may not be dead. There's a lot of shit going on in this movie.
Yeah, there's a subplot involving Delia, and then there is a subplot involving a new character, Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
Played by Willem Dafoe.
William Dafoe plays a guy named Wolf, who is a underworld cop / detective, but not really. He's actually an actor playing a detective.
Yeah, like in life, he was an actor, but now in the underworld, they have him being a cop, and the only way he knows how to be a cop is to be method.
Yeah, and his plot, like, collides with Beetlejuice's plot because he's chasing down Beetlejuice's ex-wife who's escaped. There's a lot of stuff happening in this movie.
And it all culminates in Beetlejuice trying to finish the wedding that started in the first movie.
Yeah. What's really cool about this movie is that, partially by necessity, because so many actors that were involved in the first movie are either dead or they simply don't want to put him in the movie for reasons.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't rely entirely on just callbacks to the original movie. It does a lot of cool new things, like the detective guy who's actually an actor in the underworld.
Yeah.
There's a lot of world building in the underworld that we didn't get in the first one. Like, the first one showed us what happens when you first die. This one shows us some of the other inner workings of the underworld, like, for example, the cops.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the Beetlejuice cartoon and the way they portray the Netherworld in that show, this is a lot like that.
That's the thing. I was thinking of the Beetlejuice cartoon throughout this entire movie because the Beetlejuice cartoon did a lot of world building in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff's kind of in this movie too, which makes me wonder if either the cartoon was influenced by Tim Burton's ideas or if Tim Burton was influenced by the cartoon's ideas. I don't know.
It's hard to say. It could be either, you know, either or both. But the thing of it is imagine an episode of that cartoon using the Beetlejuice from the first movie rather than the cartoon character Beetlejuice.
Yeah, who's a very different character from the movie Beetlejuice. For one, he's actually friends with Lydia in the cartoon. In this, he's back to being the bad guy. This movie's also just more overtly cartoony than even the first one was.
Oh, yeah.
And the first one was already pretty cartoony.
Yeah, this is going back to like some of the stuff that Tim Burton was doing in like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah, there's a lot of like Looney Tunes bits.
There's Looney Tunes, there's Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Even though this is a legacy sequel made 36 years after the fact and is basically cashing in on the nostalgia of the original movie, it's also the most creative movie Tim Burton's made in a while.
Yeah.
Like actually like unique things we haven't seen him do in other movies.
Yeah, or a new twist on it. Like in the original movie, of course, like Harry Belafonte was the big musical
number.
It was a big musical number.
Yeah.
In this one, it's MacArthur Park.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, which is a very, very strange choice.
And just like the first one where that song played underneath the opening, the
intro,
the
yeah.
intro, it kind
Yeah.
of plays in the background while all the like title cards are popping up. In this one, they do the same thing.
Yes.
So it's like harkening back to the original, but with a different song, showing us that this is going to be like the original, but also very different.
Yes.
I was really worried this movie was just going to be a bunch of nostalgic callbacks. And
Yeah, that it would just be that, and there would be nothing else going on.
Yeah, and it doesn't actually do that. The fact that they kind of had to force themselves because, hey, the actor who played Otho is dead.
Yeah, you can't have him back.
Let's create a completely new character who has a completely different dynamic with these characters, who kind of fills the Otho role.
Yeah.
But by the nature of his relationship to the characters, it's very different.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's a great example of something that was probably created out of necessity, but ultimately makes the movie better. There's a lot more adventures in the afterlife than the first movie had. The first movie primarily took place in the house with the occasional, like, dips into the afterlife, but this movie's, like, entire, like, third act is in the afterlife, with the exception of the wedding scene.
Yeah, wedding scene takes place in the real world, kind of.
Yeah, but a different location than we've seen
but
before,
not the house. It happens in an actual chapel.
Yeah. There's also a lot of cool inversions of things that you're kind of expecting one thing to happen because you've seen the original movie, and this movie is like, nope, we're gonna pull the rug out from under you. A great example being, and this is in the opening of the movie, so I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. In the opening scene of the original movie, if you remember, when the credits are rolling, it's like a camera flying through the town, only to reveal at the end of the fly-through that it's a model that we're actually flying through.
It's Adam Maitland's model. Yeah.
This movie has the fly-through through the town where you can clearly tell it's a model from the very beginning, but then it like pans into the window to reveal it's not the model, it's the actual house.
Yeah.
So it kind of does an inversion of the original opening title sequence. And there's a lot of stuff like that in the movie. It's very obvious that Burton knew certain expectations were going to be there and wanted to fuck with them.
Yeah, I think this is the best movie Tim Burton's done in a long time.
It is. It's really fucking good. And what's crazy about it is the entire time I kept expecting the movie to fall apart because there were so many spinning plates. I'm like, there's no way this is all going to come together in the end. Like, this is going to fall apart any second. It feels at times like he took the entirety of like a pitch for like a Beetlejuice season of a TV show and like crushed it into a 2-hour movie. And yet somehow it works.
Yes.
And the fact that it never falls apart, it all comes together in the end, even if I do feel like certain subplots, like the one involving Beetlejuice's ex-wife, could have used more time to cook than it got in the actual movie. Overall, I was very happy with what we got.
It helps that it is ultimately, at the end of the day, a comedy.
Yes.
You know, so even if one subplot is a little anticlimactic, as long as it's not a complete disappointment.
Even though we're dealing with like a midlife crisis, we're dealing with PTSD, we're dealing with confronting the trauma and death of a parent and all that stuff. Ultimately, this movie does not take itself too seriously.
No.
It is just pure fun. And I love that they didn't tone down Beetlejuice at all.
No, not all.
He's just as sleazy and off the wall and improper as he's ever been.
It's time for someone to spill their guts. I'll go first. See, I'm willing to do the work.
That was in the trailer, but in the context of the movie, it still worked 100%.
The marriage counselor scene.
Yeah.
Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, Beetlejuice is currently available in theaters. If you want to see it, you should go see it in theaters. Though I have a feeling, given its box office results, most of you have already seen it, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers, because there's a lot to talk about in this movie.
Woo! I was really amused to the lengths that they went to, and they go to great lengths to make sure that Jeffrey Jones does not appear in the movie. To the point where scenes involving him, it's actually claymation.
Yeah, when you see him dead, because even if you kill off the character, there's always going to be that question of like, why can't we see his ghost? Because this movie's all about the ghost in the afterlife.
So his ghost in the afterlife is there, but because of the way he died, he has no face. No face.
So they got a completely different voice actor doing his voice and someone completely different doing his body.
Yeah.
So they don't actually have to use the actor, and I thought that was kind of brilliant. I also was looking things up. Apparently the way he died is actually one of Tim Burton's worst nightmares for how he could die.
It's like this convoluted Rube Goldberg.
Yeah.
Like
the plane crash that leads to him getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
But not just eaten in half. And by eaten in half, I don't mean there's two halves of him floating. I mean the top half of him is gone.
Yeah. The shark just like bites the top of his body off. And so in the Neither world, he's literally a body with a shark bite taken out of him, so he has no head.
And he talks out of this like blood vessel that keeps spewing every time he speaks.
Yeah.
Apparently he used to have that reoccurring nightmare, and so he put it in this movie as the way that character died. Which is pretty crazy.
That sounds about right for Tim Burton.
Absolutely.
You know? That was one of the things I was really surprised about. Like this movie is a lot gorier than the first one.
Yeah, I was noticing that too. I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot that even though I consider Beetlejuice one of my favorite childhood movies, at the end of the day, it wasn't intended for children.
Yeah,
It was an adult-themed film, and this one follows suit, even more so in some degrees.
Oh yeah.
I also like Lydia's mother, or stepmother, as she were. She gets a lot more to do in this movie.
She's a full supporting character in this.
Like, she got a lot to do in the first movie, but in this one, like, there's so much more about her and her relationship with her daughter, where they actually are reconnecting in a certain way.
While still being this sort of artsy, airheaded fruitcake.
But what I love about it is it kind of points out, without ever directly saying it, that, yeah, you may think I'm weird with all my artsy stuff, but you're really no different with your gothy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we're basically the same person. Which is kind of something she's got to learn over the course of the movie, because she's got to realize that about her daughter. Her daughter may not be a goth like her, even though she's played by Jenna Ortega, who gives off goth vibes no matter what she does.
Ish.
In this movie, she's not like a witchy goth type. She's more of a skeptical activist type.
Yeah.
They make a very explicit point of the fact that she's in college and that there's a protest that she wants to attend to when her grandfather dies. So like she's not someone who believes in ghosts. She only believes in the things that are in front of her and all the problems that need to be fixed. And so her rich mom and her rich grandma, who are all kind of aloof and artsy, like she does not get along with them. But at the end of the day, her attitude, the way she feels about things, her animosity towards her parents, she's exactly like Lydia.
Oh yeah, no, she's totally like Lydia.
Different interests, but clearly the same person. And I really like the way they had that parallel of the 3 generations.
Yeah.
Because it's not just her and her daughter, it's her and her mom too. You have the boomer, you have the Gen Xer, and then you have the Gen Zer.
Gen Zer, yeah. Yeah, it's actually really well done. Lydia does not do anything that is wrong.
No.
In her relationship with her daughter. It's just that nothing makes sense if you don't believe that ghosts are real.
Well, exactly. If you don't believe that the ghosts that her mom sees are real, because in this movie, Lydia has become one of those, like, television psychics.
Yeah.
/ ghost hunter. She kind of does both things, which in the real world, those two things are famous grifts.
Yeah.
You know, there's tricks of the trade that people do in order to trick audiences into believing that you are reading their mind, when in actuality, you're just like doing really good guesses and like judging on their reactions, maneuvering through through more guesses. In this, she actually can see ghosts, so she actually is hunting ghosts and trying to help people with the things that are haunting them. But she's being haunted, and she's being haunted because Beetlejuice from beyond the grave is continuing to force himself into her dreams.
Yeah.
And it's starting to affect her waking life, where she just sees them about. But if you don't believe that she's seeing ghosts or that she ever saw ghosts, then from the perspective of her daughter, her mom's a drama queen.
Yeah.
First off, who's pretending to have all these serious issues and at worst is exploiting all these people of their money in order to be famous.
Yeah, and the reality is Lydia would much rather not see these ghosts.
No, her fiance, well, he's not the fiance at the beginning of the movie, but he becomes the fiance over the course of the movie.
The course of the movie, yeah.
Has been exploiting her trauma and her grief to get her to become this famous celebrity so that he could basically like squeeze every dollar off of her he possibly can. And trying to marry her is just a further extension of him trying to squeeze money out of her and milking her for all she's worth. And throughout the entire movie, he does like textbook gaslighting.
Oh, yeah.
But what I love about the way he does it is he does it in such a touchy-feely way that he comes across as weak while doing it, while maintaining full control over her.
Yes.
It's actually a rather brilliant performance because he comes across so pathetic, but he's got her exactly where he wants her at every moment.
The daughter sees what's going on.
Yeah, she can see right through it.
Delia sees what's going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, and they're just like,
But she met him in grief counseling when she was vulnerable, and he knows how to pry on all her vulnerabilities, which is obviously something she needs to confront by the end of this movie.
Yeah, but
ironically, with the help of Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it turns out, like, in the intervening years, she had, because she has a daughter, so it's got to be a dad somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So she had met this guy. He was another, like, weird goth guy.
Yeah.
And
he was goth. He liked horror movies. He liked to do Halloween early, and they talk about all this stuff. But what made him different from Lydia is that he was also an activist.
Yeah.
Which is the part that the daughter kind of like ran with.
Right. But he disappears on a trip in the Amazon.
Yep.
And
he was going to save the rainforest, man.
Yeah. The boat capsized, no survivors. He's presumed dead.
But Lydia can't see him.
Yeah, but Lydia has never seen him, and she doesn't know why.
Yeah.
Which just makes her daughter feel like, well, I mean, obviously I just caught her in the lie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Why would the one ghost she can't see be
That's
Dad?
Convenient.
Yeah, that's awfully convenient.
Yep.
You know, and she's right. That is awfully convenient.
Yeah, I would argue it's a little plot convenient too. But
Yes.
it worked in the movie, but I was sitting there going like, they don't actually explain that very well.
No. Well, they do and they don't.
Well, they say like, oh, I was trying to see you, but you couldn't see me. It's like when you watch a politician dodge a direct question.
Yes.
That's what it kind of felt
And
like.
then you look back, you're like, wait, he didn't actually answer that, did he?
Exactly.
Motherfucker.
Exactly. But whatever. I was willing to roll with it because so much crazy shit's happening in this movie.
It's not like you have time to think about it.
No,
you know,
no.
Like, this movie just keeps going.
To the point where sometimes a plot like disappears for like half the running time and you're like, wait, what about that? And then it will come back again and be like, oh shit, I completely forgot about that with everything else going on.
Yeah.
There's also a lot with Beetlejuice and his ex-wife that has escaped, but not like from a prison. She was like cut up into pieces by Beetlejuice in the past and put in these little boxes.
Yeah.
And this janitor accidentally knocks over the boxes and unleashes her.
A janitor played by Danny DeVito.
Yeah, which was a great cameo.
Yeah.
That was a great cameo. And she's played by Monica Bellucci. And I believe like her name is like Dolores.
Yeah, Dolores.
She is awesome, but I do feel like she's a little underutilized in this movie.
Well, yeah, she is the vampira from Plan 9.
Yeah.
Like, she just kind of floats forward and looks mysterious, but doesn't have a lot of lines.
Her entire existence is one giant pun. If you've ever heard the phrase soul-sucking ex-wife,
Yeah.
she is literally an ex-wife of Beetlejuice who sucks the souls out of people.
Yeah, including other ghosts.
Including other ghosts. So she's like running through the afterlife trying to find Beetlejuice and just murdering ghosts by eating them.
Yeah.
The entire time. And she's badass and she's awesome. And then when she shows up at the end, she's just kind of defeated by Beetlejuice because of the sandworm.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's like the original movie. Like, basically, the wedding is once again interrupted by a sandworm.
Yeah. In a very different way than the first movie, but I really liked what happened in this one.
Yeah. There's more of a struggle with the sandworm in this one. But the thing that I loved about it is the sandworm never stopped looking like a janky ass stop motion effect, even when it was interacting with the with the actors.
100%. The use of stop motion, and there's still CGI in this movie, don't get me wrong, but unlike some more recent Tim Burton movies where he was doing like entirely digitally created environments on like green screens, he used a lot of practical sets in this movie, and you can tell. A lot of practical sets and a lot of like old school miniature tricks.
Yes.
Which which was pretty cool because it made it feel like it existed in the same world as the first movie.
It did.
As opposed to, say, like the Star Wars prequels versus the original trilogy.
Yeah, because like the effects in the prequels look better, simultaneously better and worse than the original
And
trilogy.
the effects look like completely different types of effects.
Yeah.
Even though they're recreating the same things, they feel like completely different universes.
Yeah, whereas in this one, they did not break the aesthetic of the original movie.
No, they did it as much as possible, and there was occasional like CGI flourishes. Like, it's very obvious, for example, in this one scene where all these influencers get sucked into their phone, that was like digitally doing what they would have done with stop motion in the original movies.
Yeah.
But my point is, ultimately, is that the aesthetic of this movie, I fucking loved it.
Oh, yeah. I love the reveal of Lydia's husband.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because they're always like, he died in the rainforest. And you're like, okay, like, what are they going to do with this? And so they're at this ticket booth because, you know, this is the Beetlejuice underworld. And there's always that one person who has that job who's just like, number 566.
Yep. He's an immigration.
He's an immigration officer. He can't leave, but all of a sudden Lydia runs by and a guy whose face is covered in piranhas.
Yeah. And she
fucking looks at her is like, huh? And you're like, oh shit, it's him. Lydia? And you're like, oh my God. Okay, you got eaten alive by piranhas. All right.
That whole sequence leads into one of my favorite bits of like underworld world building, the Soul Train.
Oh my God. Yeah, the one where if you have a ticket, you're allowed to go like past the netherworld into the hereafter.
Yeah, instead of existing in the netherworld like purgatory, you're going to like straight up like heaven, paradise.
Yeah.
And you have to ride the Soul Train to get there. It turns into a just straight up disco scene, and I fucking loved it. That was great. All this is not even getting into the subplot with the daughter befriending this boy in town.
Oh God, that's right.
Who turns out to be a fucking like serial murderer.
Yeah.
Who died on his family's property and hasn't been able to leave there because of that, and wants to use Astrid, Lydia's daughter. There's this deal in the book that you can do, the book of the afterlife that they give you.
Yeah, the handbook for the recently deceased.
Yes. From the first movie, he has one, and apparently in it, one of the deals you can do is if you can convince someone to actually agree to the deal, you can trade someone's soul for your own.
Yeah.
And basically he tricks Astrid into switching places with him.
Yeah.
I don't know why Beetlejuice didn't try this track in the first movie instead of the marriage track, but maybe he just really likes Lydia, and who can blame him?
Yeah. He does have that picture of her on his desk, right? You know?
I think he legitimately has a crush on her. He's just a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's a sleazeball. He's an asshole. But interestingly enough, even though he is the final conflict at the end of this story, he's actually more of like a trickster helper throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Because they need his help to stop this kid from sending Astrid into the afterlife.
Yeah.
Which leads into this entire like Looney Tunes fucking chase sequence throughout the afterlife that was fucking great. It's like a mix between like Brazil and Looney Tunes.
Yes.
But man, this movie is freaking wild. That fucking musical sequence during the wedding, like throughout the entire thing, I was just waiting for it to fall apart, and then it builds up to that like wedding like musical number, and I'm just like, this is amazing.
The movie has a perfect ending. The perfect ending is, of course, well, no, you haven't gotten rid of Beetlejuice.
No.
He just always just goes back to the underworld.
You may have sent him back to the underworld, but that's what you did in the first
movie, and that didn't get rid of him.
And so naturally, he can still inject himself in your drinks. But anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Where can they find you, Count Jackula?
Look, you can find me here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I stream here on YouTube, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I stream over on at the same time. How about you?
Y'all know me, I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way. And if you would like to help us out even more, then leave a comment below, because engagement absolutely helps us out. Using the hashtag hashtag keep it real. Use the hashtag keep it real. That way I know. That way Jack knows. That way the whole world knows that you are an actor who died and decided to become a cop in the afterlife, but you're really just acting. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, goddammit, fucking William Dafoe stole the show every time he was on screen.
Yeah.
And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.